Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is one thing. Now, ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons. And now science is catching up, and this isn't even new science. The science of quantum physics is over 100 years old, and it's basically saying the unified field theory and quantum entanglement is saying everything is connected, everything is one thing. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is The Great Awakening with Mary Reed. Welcome again, Mary.
Thank you.
Awake to Oneness Radio.
Namaste, my friend. Namaste.
Namaste. Now, Mary, I've had you several times, so I do, and you're a dear friend of mine, so I am familiar with you, but maybe some of the audience is not. So we can, if you could just give a brief synopsis of your journey with our listeners, it'll be great.
Sure. Thank you for having me, honey. It's very nice to see you, and always good to be here and have a chat.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know me, I am a former agnostic. I was a healthcare executive for many years in Washington, D.C. And 2 decades ago, I just out of the blue started having these mystical experiences, these really profound engagements with divine realms and divine beings. And that took me on this mystical journey that I've been on ever since. And it ended up in 2011. I thought I was going crazy for a long time because I felt very alone on this journey. And I ended up in a serious suicide attempt, not being able to sort of figure things out. And upon awakening from that experience, I finally just surrendered to the journey. I stopped trying to be normal. I stopped trying to figure it out. I stopped trying to fix anything. And I just surrendered to whatever was supposed to be. And immediately after that, my whole world shifted, and I ended up living in a Buddhist nunnery in the Himalayas for the better part of 7 years. And so I've just been on this journey ever since. And I began leaving during monsoon seasons at the nunnery and traveling to tell my story and start coming out as a mystic. And I released my book, Unwitting Mystic, in 2014. And for many years in traveling and talking about my book, it was basically just telling my story. It's pretty much all I knew to talk about was just what happened. I couldn't really talk about the wisdom per se because it's so beyond words. But starting around 2016, things began to shift, and I began to be able to articulate what that wisdom is and how it applies to what's happening in our world today. And 2016 seemed to be a pivotal year for sort of humanity in general.
Yes.
And so my ability to come out and speak differently about that has been sort of in the company of that trajectory for humanity as well. So that's my background. That's what I do. And in that journey of talking with people about that, that's how we came to know each other. You had me on your show way back when, and you hosted me in your home area there in the Poconos. And we've just been hanging out periodically ever since then.
Yes, it has. Yes, we are. We're kindred spirits. Yes.
Yes.
For sure. For sure. And yes, so now 2016, you're right. That's when I had you. It was 2016. I think it was 2016 or was it 17 where you came to the Poconos? I can't remember. But I know it was in the fall. It was like September, 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you may have had me in the spring, and then in the fall I came to see you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's how I think it went. You're exactly right. And now 2020, we are past the midpoint. Yes, 2020. We are past the midpoint. Now, I have been saying on my show since September of 2019, so almost a year, I have been saying 2020 is going to be the year of clear vision. And all I knew, that's all I knew, was 2020 was going to be the year of clear vision. I had no idea what would transpire, and a lot has. A lot has transpired, and I understand clearly now why Spirit gave me, like, I listened to a lot of channel information, and that information came through more than one channel, that 2020 is going to be a very pivotal year and the year of clear vision for humanity. And I got from my higher self the directive in March that this is the beginning of the Great Awakening. So please share your experience of this year,
Boy,
your thoughts, your experience and your thoughts.
that's such a big question, or a open-ended sort of thing. You know, everything about it has been extraordinary, hasn't it? Like the unexpectedness of how it unfolded, of what created the sort of momentum that really everybody, whether they wanted to or not, was swept up in, right? With
Yes.
the pandemic as it started.
Yes.
And it's no surprise to me that it came on a wave of fear, a massive wave of fear.
Yes.
I have been speaking for many years about this momentum of transcending that's going on, that has been going on for a while now, is all related to the rising up of the presence of divine love, the awakening to ourselves as divine love right here.
Yes.
And as that happens, as that presence of divine love comes into this reality, is made more present in this reality, it will begin to challenge all of the things that were, all of the systems of our world that were built on foundations of fear.
Yes.
And those foundations of fear will not be able to sustain the force of the divine love that is rising up. And so we will begin to see all those systems that were built in fear begin to crumble. Those foundations can't sustain it. And so what happened? We had this massive wave of fear come in, and now those old systems can't sustain any more of that force. And so we're seeing all of these systems, every system was affected, right? Education, economics,
government,
travel, government, yes,
yes.
healthcare, all these systems.
Yes.
They impacted, like the weight was too much. And so everything literally had to stop, right? And not just in one little spot, but all around the planet.
The whole planet, yes.
Putting the brakes on, like, wait
Yes.
a minute, what has to happen here? It was phenomenal to feel that wave of fear and then like feel the foundations not be able to sustain any more pressure.
Yes.
And then now watching all of the world sort of take sides about what should we be doing, what's the right thing to do, who's still in fear, who's not in fear. We start to see everybody trying to figure out, where's the balance here? Where am I in all of this? Where is our system in all of this? How do we operate now? Because the old paradigms can't function right now. It's been phenomenal to watch. So just watching that whole thing, and actually what you said about 2020 will be a year of clear vision. I did another interview where we were talking about people feeling that they had more clarity about things. And I was saying that, you know, when the whole world stopped, basically, we all took our cars off the road, things shut down, the pollution went down further. There was clarity in the water. There was literally clarity in the air, right? You could feel it when you go out and the colors are more vivid, the sky is clear. There's literally and figuratively more clarity within us on planet Earth right now. So it's just been phenomenal to watch. And I said during this time, I have a group of people, I have a Patreon community that I meet with weekly. And in one of those things I was saying, you know, now what will happen is that people, as they're called inside, everybody is literally called inside, off the streets, into their home, into their own being here. And once we have that quiet time, that stopping of our old expected routines, our habits, the minute that we have the opportunity to go back out,
Yes.
we're going to face the question of, is this really the world I want to go back out into? That old thing, is this really what I want to do? And we're not going to be able to do it.
Right.
We're going to be challenged in those, what do we really want to do, and what can we do now? And it's no surprise then that as soon as some of us started to be able to open up and go back out, immediately we begin to have these civil rights protests.
Yes.
And things looking at the inherent systems of that are based in race or based in economics or class or all these sorts of things. And it's continuing now because this is just the beginning. This
Yes.
is just the beginning of addressing these ingrained, entrenched beliefs, ideas, and then the ways that we live according to those. So
Yes.
we're going to come out, we've literally come ungrounded from the foundations, but we don't know what the next thing is. We're all standing on shaky stuff.
Shaky ground, yes.
But from my perspective, from the metaphysical perspective, it's all a beautiful sort of setting free, right? We've been set free from all of those old paradigms. And now it's all just about allowing that new to come in, and we're allowed to receive what's possible now, but because we could not be in that allowing and receiving state standing tethered to fear.
Yes, yes, yes. So true. Everything you said, I totally resonate with. I've actually, and I've said it many times on the show since March, I've actually been in a state of bliss since March because I, not a channel, not a psychic, I have a very strong connection to higher self. And I live my life since, I guess, 2011 from that knowing that higher self is guiding me. And higher self said to me, it's on. This is the beginning. It's like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. We're just still in the beginning. But once I knew in my heart and soul, we are in the beginning of the Great Awakening. Nothing could wipe a smile off my face. Nothing, the whole fear thing, I was talking about in February. Don't allow the media to put you in the state of fear. I had no idea this whole pandemic and shutdown was going to happen the next month. I just think, please don't allow the mainstream news to put you in a state of fear, because I had turned it off 19 years ago. So I knew that's what, I turned it off 19 years ago and realized many years later that the reason I was directed to turn it off was because it wants to keep you in a state of fear. They're actually paid to keep you in a state of fear. Hey, no judgment, but that's what they're doing. And so I'm like, no. I know who I am as a sovereign divine being of light. And when you know who you are, when you know who you are in your heart and soul, you can't be in a state of fear, because there is no such thing as death. You are creating your own reality. And so, but knowing that now, okay, I've been on this road of awakening for a while, but now knowing that the masses are going to start gradually waking up, just put me in such an elevated state that I can't do anything but smile. And then my experience of the world since March, since I raised my vibration and kept it there, has been nothing but bliss. Every situation, everything, I stay grounded in the now. I make my plans for the day. Sometimes the plans go away. I planned it. Sometimes they don't. But whatever happens, it's bliss. And my whole neighborhood, the kids have been out of school since March and just up and down the street. It's like, I keep telling people, my block is like a block party. With the neighbors, we visit each other. There's no fear, not on my block anyway. So,
yeah.
So it's like, it's been really, and I just get the message that I'm just to share and be in the state and share and not lower it. Not that I'm not seeing. I'm seeing. I don't have to watch the news to see what's happening in 3D. I am keeping myself in 5D and observing 3D and inviting everybody to come up to 3D, and but I'm enjoying what I say. I'm enjoying the greatest show, not on Earth, the greatest show in the universe, because our galactic brothers and sisters are also, they're celebrating because it is. I mean, yeah, we're at that stage now where it's breaking down. The old is breaking down.
Right,
So it's
which is the
like
chaos that we see. Right?
exactly.
So we're going to have that chaos and that pain that is up for healing, right? This is all that pain that has come up to be included in the healing process now.
Yes,
Go
exactly.
ahead, sorry.
Which must happen. So I sometimes compare it to birth. You know, so we're in the birthing process, and I birthed two children, so I know that labor. So we're in labor pains right now, and labor is not fun. But after the birth, and you're holding that beautiful baby, you forget all about the labor pains. I mean, it's like, so we are in labor pains right now. But when you realize, and I was that way with Kyle. I actually was in a state of bliss in the midst. I'll never forget. You know, they put these monitors on you to monitor when you're in a contraction. I was in a birthing room because I planned to have Kyle and go right home. And that didn't happen because I had to have an emergency C-section because Kyle took the cord and wrapped it around his head. That's Kyle. Okay. But the whole time, I'm in the birthing room and the nurses are in there and they're checking me and they're looking at the monitor and they can see I'm in the midst of a contraction. And I've got the biggest, they're like, you're having a contraction right now. I'm like, yeah, so what? And I'm like, so I'm literally, what I was going through in birthing Kyle, in the birthing process, I'm going through right now. In the middle of a contraction, I'm in bliss. So I'm just sharing that bliss and inviting everybody to come up to because it's all about the vibration. It's all about raising that vibration because the more each of us raise our vibration, we're connected. So we're bringing everyone with us as we rise.
You know, what's interesting from a metaphysical perspective, and because I should have mentioned this earlier, but in my experiences for these last 2 decades, all of my mystical experiences relate to the origins, mostly the origins of things that we think are pertinent to understanding human experience. So the origins of existence, the origins of thought, the origins of fear, of Christianity, of Buddhism, etc. And so my sight, my experiences all relate to sort of humanity as a whole. And of course, then playing down to the individual experience within that, in context with that. And so in watching the whole of what's been happening, it's been fascinating to see the various levels of spiritual awareness or whatever come to light, right? To see, you know, where people are over here and a certain sector of spiritual people over here, and, you know, and it's multidimensional. It's not like it's a linear scale up, which is the way a lot of people talk about it. But just to watch, and so then to see how people within those groups find each other and get that level of support, and they kind of hold arms and go this way together. It's been fascinating to watch. And for my work, because I am always about the whole, individuals who follow my work, we don't really focus on individual human experiences like, you know, my mom did this to me, or I grew up with this. I just don't, it's not my work.
Right.
So in the work that's been happening with my groups, just over the last 6 months, has been what I've been, I too have started channeling as well, but it's been considered, the way to talk about it is like we're the container, right?
Okay.
So the container in which everything is playing out. So you might imagine us holding humanity
Yes.
while all of the storms play out and evolve in their natural way. But a container needs to stay still. The container needs to be grounded and centered or whatever, so that it can allow the greatest evolution of these storms in whatever's the highest interest of humanity. But if the container itself is also part of the storms, then nothing can find its balance. So some of us are playing a role of just being able to hold everybody steady and love what's unfolding. Absolutely love what's unfolding. Hold in the divine, authentic, sincere embrace, fully grounded in relationship with Earth, our home here,
Yes.
to allow everything to play out in its greatest evolutionary path for all that's concerned. And so this is what my work has been, and it's been such a joy, week after week after week, to just gather people in, get really anchored as the new, right?
Yes.
As the new anchors, because the old anchors are gone. The old anchors from foundations of fear are gone.
Yes.
So this new anchors of love is allowing everything to unfold that's possible, right? It's been such a joy to do that, such a joy to do that. And therefore, we don't have to figure out what to do about fear.
Yes.
It's not our job to figure out what to do about others' fear. We're simply that home, that beacon of light that people can see as sort of a safe haven eventually, right?
Yes.
So many of us are able to do that right now, and it's such a gift. It's really a gift to be able to hold that presence.
Yes, and I do see it. I see the awakening because I don't watch the news. If I watched the mainstream news, I would see the chaos. But I don't watch it, so I stay online. I follow those that I know are awake, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the mass awakening, and it gives me such joy. I know that, like you said, that now that we were all, and the shutdown was such a blessing. It was a blessing to Mother Earth. It was a blessing to everybody who had a chance to go inside and go within and ask those big questions. Because if they're running off to work every day, they're not asking those big questions. They're just doing the mundane things that you do every day. But so many people saying, wait a second, what's going on? Even my brother, who's not really into any of the stuff I'm into, we had a conversation Easter Sunday, and he was listening to everything I was saying for the first time. And he was like really taking it in. And I was like, wow, that's the first sign to me the world is awakening. If my brother can listen to me and agree with me and see logic in some of the stuff I'm saying, okay, the world is awakening. Yes.
In addition to like the collective awakening that we can feel, it's been fascinating to watch people on an individual basis, the really profound changes that have happened within them and within their lives, their home or work lives. Tremendous changes suddenly, and very big changes within the last 6 months. They go like a whole, several decades of leading one life, and then something clicks. And this has been, I've watched people, and I've helped people that after 40 plus years of marriage suddenly realize, actually, I don't know why I'm tolerating this sort of thing in my home or my life.
Right.
It's not good, and it's not, and I'm okay leaving. I know three people after 40 plus years of marriage done, and a few people after 20 plus years. And then same thing with work. People have been doing work that doesn't feel fulfilling, that isn't really exciting to them. It doesn't feel like that's their genuine, the contribution that they want to make to their life experience or to the humanity.
Right.
So sudden big changes in careers that are like major, left turns, and other things in terms of just like big ahas and realizing things about themselves, about their work, about their relationships, about their family responsibilities. It's been incredible to watch these people literally wake up. It's like a flip switch.
Light switch.
And, and then there's no stopping it. It's not like you can turn that switch off again. The switch is up and it's staying up. It's been phenomenal to watch that, and then to watch what happens with them once they make that decision. It's like a different person standing there. There's like a whole different energy. There's a whole different authenticity about them that you can feel, and that feels good and strong and alive within them. And that's what they're taking out into the community. That's what they're taking out and radiating, right? That sense of authenticity.
Yes.
In living their truth. Suddenly that truth is available. And they are available to it. So
Yes.
it's been phenomenal to watch.
Very true, very true. And I think that first step is when people let go of that fear, because it's that fear what keeps people from living their authentic truth, from leaving that relationship that they know is not working and doesn't feel, is their authentic truth, from leaving that job that doesn't feel like it's their authentic truth. But to drop, when they drop that fear, and it's like, wait a second, there's nothing to fear. I am that I am. And I can go out and live my authentic life and leave that fear behind. And once you do that, that's freedom. That's true
Mm-hmm.
freedom.
It
When you
is
feel
freedom.
free to live your authentic life. Yes.
You know, when the pandemic first started and fear was massively up, and my teachings are always about love.
Yes.
It's just, I might as well just title every single one of them, "This is something about love." Uh,
Yes.
uh, and I was talking about, there's an alternative option to
Yes.
fearing this virus, and that is to love this virus.
Yes.
Virus is no different than anything else in the world. It seeks love. It seeks to be the expression of the love that it is.
Yes.
And when our response is we're going to fear that, that's a rejection. And rejection
Yes.
is very much the thing that separates us from our understanding of oneness.
Yes.
Automatically, if we reject something, we separate from it, right? That's just easy to understand. So when I began to talk about loving this virus, a few people were like, well, what happens if you get the virus? And I'm like, so let's think about that then. Okay, so let's say that I get the virus and I love this virus in me. What's the worst thing that can happen? Even if I die, I die fearlessly in love.
Yes.
As opposed to living in fear.
Exactly.
Like, what's the question here? Like, doesn't that seem like a really good path to die fearlessly in love? Isn't that our goal?
Yes.
Isn't that everybody's goal, to die fearlessly? Like, that's as opposed to live in fear. But we are so used to living in fear, we think of that as normal.
Yes.
We think of that as the best option.
Yes.
It's like, oh, what have we done here?
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because there's this question that's been coming up in social media lately, this past few days, about when are we getting back to normal? And every time I hear that, matter of fact, my plumber came over the other day, and first thing he said is, when we get back to normal, and dot, 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 dot. And I said, we were never in normal. And he agreed with me. And we've never been in normal. To me, okay, this is what normal looks like to me. No war, no poverty, no crime, no cruelty, no pollution. Living in a world of peace, love, and harmony, and equality. That's what normal looks like to me. We have not lived that. That was not, before the pandemic, we were not living in what I would call normal. Okay,
that's true. So it's not our normal nature. We live in the opposition to our nature. Our nature is considering all of life wondrously equal. Yes. Wondrously free to be whatever it is as it is, to be unconditionally accepted as it is in a state of oneness. Yes. And you will notice in our world, we live in the exact opposite. We live in pervasive inequality, pervasive oppression, pervasive rejection, and considering everything other. And then you will notice that we live in a world in constant pain. Yes. Right? In constant suffering, because we're living not normal. Exactly. We're not in our innate natural state of being. We're in the opposition to that, and the opposition is painful. So this is what the awakening is about. Exactly. Waking up to, oh my God, why are we considering this normal? Right. Why have we accepted it? Yeah. Why have we just gone along with it? And then when our eyes are open, we can't close them again. We can't unsee the truth. And that's the great awakening that's happening right now. And I'm just so grateful to all the teachings that are coming up in these very, what feels like very painful, very difficult ways. These are the teachings that wake us up. For the people that still need some kind of, light switch to go on.
Yes.
These are some painful, like, switching ons that's
Yes.
going up, and people are getting it. I've been watching so many reports of ways that people are like, oh my God, I never realized this, and exactly this kind of thing. I never realized that. I just considered that normal. When of course it's not normal. Why would I even ever think that was normal?
Right.
So it's so beautiful on so many levels. It's just beautiful.
And very true. And there is no going back. Humanity is rising. Humanity is not going to go backwards. So this is to me a pivotal year where by the end of this year, I think there's going to be a great reveal by the end of this year, and people will have to decide individually, do I want to shift into this, or do I want to stay into that old energy? You'll have a choice. But that's where I see there's going to be a gradual splitting of, the Bible speaks of how there's splitting of the world, the old earth to new earth. And I truly see it's not going to be just overnight. It's not going to be an overnight split. It's a gradual split. And this 2020, because there's no coincidence. When you go to the eye doctor and the eye doctor says you have 20/20 vision, okay? That is clear vision, 20/20, and that there's no coincidence that this year has been pivotally marked for the 20/20 of clear vision. So to me, I don't know when or how it's going to happen, but it's happening, because it's happening in drips and drabs. But I think that right now it's like a stream. It started in drips, and now it's like a small stream of information, truth coming out. And I think that the tap is going to be wide open, and everybody's going to be at least shown this truth. And they have the ability to decide, okay, does this resonate with me? Do I want to go with this? Or do I want to go a lot? We'll be like, no, I want it back. I want to go back. I want to go back. And that's their individual soul choice. But I think as we're going to gradually be, splitting into two earths. And and whatever decision they decide, because it's a soul choice, and some souls need more 3D experience. It's their soul's choice. It's like no judgment. If that soul needs more 3D experience, bless them and allow them their 3D experience. For those that are ready to go to a higher dimension, they're off to that higher dimension.
Yeah, I mean, I've been shown very clearly that there would be the appearance of a split, that people have to choose a side, basically.
Yes.
And that neither side is right or wrong.
Exactly.
Because there's many paths up the mountain, as they say, right? But on one path, you get Sherpas, you get little guest houses along the way, you get little easier cutbacks. And then the other, you're kind of climbing the cliffs.
Yes.
You don't have anybody to help carry what's on your back, and it's a more arduous challenge of a path.
Yes.
But that too is just as valuable or equal, or of an exploration of life as the other. But many people will not choose that harder path anymore, and so be it. So be it for any of them.
Yes.
I should also mention that it's in the last 6 months. Like I have really powerful mystical abilities, and without ever studying for it, I just got the whole manual, and there it went. But in the last 6 months, everything has kicked up phenomenally for me, and not just for me, but a lot of people that I work with in my groups that I meet with. They've suddenly come online with a lot of mystical abilities and big ahas, and those mystical, the wisdom that's rising up for them. And for some of them, that is the wisdom of realizing their truth, right? Realizing that this home situation or work situation is no longer. But others have come into their abilities to either connect with divine realms or receive channeling or have visions or whatever. But for me, it's all of these things have just started, like event after event after event, and several times a week now. I've had in 6 months the number of mystical experiences that I had more than over a 10-year span. And I began in April to channel as well and all this stuff. But since late March, almost all of my experiences have related in some way to the end of things that are only happening in separation consciousness. And it began with the experience of the end of hell. In this really incredible mystical experience, I went into this realm and experienced the end of the archetype of the devil. And that there was a surrendering, and all of the beings that we would consider demons or devils in this realm were, when I originally went into this realm, there was like a stomping of a rebellion, but it was a rebellion to say, we are no longer going to wait. It's over. And then the head devil comes in and sort of puts down his scepter, and the moment he slams the scepter, all of the demon characters just dissolve in an instant. The red drains from the devil character, and then he becomes the image of God. We began to see now God in that which we thought was evil. And so there was this whole, and it was incredible. And then there has been the end of opposing sides, the end of labeling the masculine and feminine energies paradigm, which is an opposing polarity kind of model, the end of effort, the end of self-doubt, all of these end of things, which all points to, once that's done, once those paradigms, once those ideas are gone, what is there but living in unitive consciousness? So when you end the things that are paradigms of the evil part, the bad part that we want so badly to reject, once all of those ideas dissolve, then you're in unitive consciousness. That's the whole point. And so this is the piece where, the awakened being is, right? Without the need for any of that evil, without the need for any of this good, bad paradigm, it just doesn't exist in a unitive consciousness.
Exactly. You're exactly right. The separation consciousness does not exist in the higher dimension of 5D, where we're going towards. And I always use that symbol, the yin yang symbol of black white, where it's equal. The black, the shadow side and the light are equal, and they're one. They're not separate. So I always say there's no such thing as good, bad. There's no such thing as evil, because it's all God. And like you said, and we're all divine souls playing a role. And some chose to play the role of the dark. But so when you awaken, you're like, wait a second, that person's not dark, that person's God playing a role, and even though it's not something I would choose to do in this lifetime, I understand it's God playing that role. And it's all about the unity consciousness. That is the 5D new earth, and that is the language of the 5D new earth. And sometimes I try to speak that language to people who are not quite there yet, and it's like me speaking French and they're speaking Spanish. It's like they don't understand. The unity consciousness is the true awakening, the oneness, the unity, that it is all God and it's all one. And when we get there, that's beautiful. So I love how you describe that, because that's what it is truly all about.
I have to tell you, 5D is not part of my language. And I'll tell you why. A couple of years ago, I had this incredible experience of being in the momentum within the cosmos of where humanity, like it was humanity's magnificent, it was like a river in the cosmos. It was massive, and it was all this exuberant movement of humanity's trajectory into awakening. But what was important about that was I was not only seeing what we're moving into in humanity's evolution, but I was seeing, most importantly, of what we're coming out of. And what we're coming out of in this experience, we were coming out of, in particular, our incredible sense of inadequacy, of feeling so small, of considering ourselves so small, which is why we have this undercurrent of unworthiness that's so pervasive, self-doubt, lack of self-love, lack of self-compassion, so deeply ingrained in human thinking, in humanity at large. And the way that it was first shown to me was like, you can imagine it was like a bucket, a single bucket sitting at the edge of an ocean. It's sitting on the sand at the edge of the waves. And this bucket is feeling completely overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed at the idea of everything that has to be figured out and fixed in order to experience the oneness of the ocean in its little bucket.
Right. Yes.
When in fact, of course, we're already the oneness of the ocean. The only thing that separates our little bucket from there is believing that we're not.
Right.
This is what we believe we are, that little tiny bucket. So
Right.
that's the scale of our belief and what we really are. And so then the next thing that was playing out was, as we ascend into more and more of understanding of what we truly are,
yes,
we recognize how much of spiritual language, and this is going back to all of the ancient teachings and New Age teachings as well, hold us in the belief that we're small, that we have to do something. We have to achieve, right? We have to be worthy of earning our way into higher levels. We have to be more spiritual. We have to do more prayers. We have to be more moral. We have to do all of these sorts of things. And the way that it was shown to me was, and the New Age teachings was one of the examples that was given to me.
right.
And it was like this, talking about the idea of ascending from third to fourth to fifth dimensions.
Right.
So in that example, in this experience, it was saying that, so if you're in the fifth dimension,
Right.
that means that you should be able to experience everything in the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth dimensions. You can experience it all.
Right.
But if you're in the third dimension, you can only experience first, second, and third.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So right there, you can see how separation ideology is inherent in that language.
Right.
You see, we're not already where we're supposed to be. Like you see, there's already a separation ideology at the baseline of that teaching. Now, imagine the trillionth dimension.
Okay.
Can experience all these other dimensions, but this little old third dimension can in no way, neither can the fifth dimension, experience all that we are, right?
Right.
So bridging the gap between the third or fifth dimension and the trillionth dimension that we really are capable of,
right.
Bridging that gap is simply dropping the belief that we're not already all of that. Right?
I agree with you.
So my language is about the all, is about, no, we are everything. Right?
Yes.
The oneness is everything. It's every level, every dimension, all of it. Our light is everywhere.
Yes.
And so not restricting ourselves to the idea that we're just going up a couple of notches. No, no, no. We're doing away with notches.
Okay.
We're doing, in my experience, that's
no.
This is what I saw.
You know what, the language is so gets in the way sometimes.
Yes.
It totally gets in the way sometimes. But no, I agree with you 1,000%. My favorite quote, and you with the bucket in the ocean, my favorite quote is Rumi: "You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." And so we're the entire universe in a drop. We are limitless, and us knowing that's the truth to me, awakening, knowing who we truly are as divine spiritual souls. And so yes, I agree with you. I do use the term fifth dimension, but I don't think of it as a judgment. But you're right, the language is a separation, but I don't ever think of it as a judgment. I don't feel like those that I feel are very attached to this 3D what we call physical realm. And this physical realm is not even physical. Because in 7th grade, my science teacher said nothing is truly physical when we were studying atoms and molecules. And we know now that an atom, the building blocks, quote unquote, of of our physical realm, atoms are 99.99999% empty space. So we don't live in a physical world. I use that example all the time. So our senses are so limited when we only focus on what our physical, like my body is a vehicle to kind of travel around in this dimension, in this realm. But it's just a vehicle. It's not who I am. It's like I have a car, but I'm not my car. And so I have a body, and I try to take care of it and keep it healthy to be around here. But I understand that it is If we only think with our mind and not our heart and our soul, we limit ourselves. And language is very limiting, because
Yeah.
one person can say one thing and the exact same thing could mean something totally different to one and opposite to another. Yeah, so yes,
Mhm. Yeah,
very.
and I think that this is the challenge, right? And that was part of my experience, is that we're going to be transcending old language. Like
Yes.
we're going to be transcending not only old language but old ways of talking about things, because it's the language that the mind created in order to parse things out, analyze it, put it in these various things, and we're going to be transcending that, as we no longer need to analyze the aboutness of life, but literally just embodying the life experience itself, staying
Mhm.
very present in the moment without a judgment about it, right?
Exactly.
But one of the things that's so beautiful about this awakening is how many different voices are coming out, and every voice is talking differently, right? I will speak about things differently than you will. Paul Selig will speak about it differently than Marianne Williamson, or
Yes.
than Rumi or whatever.
Yes.
Like we're all speaking about it in different ways, but there's we can be heard by particular people who can hear that kind of thing, and
Right.
then we will gradually open more opportunities to increase that language. And one of the things that I do to bypass the
Yes.
challenge and the limitations of language is that I do most of my work through energy, like
Mm-hmm.
through literally like through a meditation and a breathing exercise, so that
Mm-hmm.
we're opening up things within the body field, within the energetic field, and we're moving it around so that the natural wisdom rises up. It's not something I have to tell you. It's
Right.
something that you realize within you. I may give you a sentence that's an invitation that kind of pulls it up, but the understanding of
Exactly.
that is going to rise naturally within you, which is so much better than having to hand somebody the information that they memorize, then try to intellectualize, and then try to believe, and then try to live, right?
So
It's
true.
just the shortcut to the authentic thing within them. And so people don't have to speak about it, they live it.
Right.
Right. This is I have a course, an online course called the Divine 444. And
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly this kind of work. It's 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so people they sit down, they're guided through the meditations, and the only thing they have to do is breathe. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that they have to memorize. There's nothing that they have to do, right?
Yes.
It's so simple, and it's been quite effective. And especially in a time where, especially during the pandemic, when people
Yes.
were at home and they needed something to ground them, that
Yes.
was quite effective. I actually offered it for free for the first few months, and more
Awesome.
than
Awesome.
500 people were jumping on that to be like, oh yeah, I need this. So that was really
Yes.
excellent. But it's just, I think that there's a lot of us now, and Paul Selig is a really good example of that
Yes.
too.
I love Paul.
Paul, his work is, you can feel the energy. You can
Yes.
feel the energy of it, and he's
Yes.
speaking about it differently.
Yes, he
He's
does.
just speaking again and again and again and again and again and again
Yes.
about just deconstructing our ideas of what we think is real, or think is
Yes.
right, or whatever. And just, I don't know how many books he's done now, 8 or
Yeah.
something, and he just keeps progressively opening this up more energetically. It's so beautiful.
It's very
It's,
true. And
yeah.
I love what you said about the being and the doing, because early on in my awakening, I got it when Spirit said to me, it's not about doing, it's about being.
Right.
About being you already are. You're all of those things already. And so it's about being and not to do. And I use the word inspire in my opening, that the mission of this show is to inspire. I say because I can't give anybody anything.
Right.
All truth is within. So I inspire them to go within, where they to tap into their truth, their authentic knowing, which is only one place, is within. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that, because it is about, and I use this phrase a lot, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And it's the drinking is their awakening. So
Mm-hmm.
I can leave. I'm like, okay, the pond's over here. I'll take you there, but I can't drink for you. You
Mm-hmm.
have to, so it's all within them. And I always, the self-empowerment, that's a big part of my message, is it's not about me. It's not about where there's like all these wonderful teachers and books and lectures and works. They're wonderful. But the bottom line it has to come from within you, that
Mm-hmm.
awakening. It's an
Mm-hmm.
internal process.
I
Like,
think so many people, they address that, they start coming to it with a sense of feeling already overwhelmed of I don't know what I'm going to find.
right.
I don't know how to do it, right? The idea is, right, so just recently in a channeling there was like a beautiful sentence that came out and it said being is the new doing,
Yes.
right? And then just I think this past Sunday in my satsang, so I channeled a very large collective of divine beings called Consensus.
Okay.
And usually I encounter them in an arena. And so they fill up the arena. That's how many divine beings it is. It's really big. And this last one, so it was an online satsang and there was my regular group online.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that in this very exuberant, joyous cheerleading that's going on in the stands from these
Yes.
divine beings, it's
Yes.
absolutely brilliant, radiant light. They were saying that it's like we're like watching a game that's going on the field.
Yes.
But we want it's the game of effort,
Yes.
of always doing to achieve, to figure it out, to fix it, to do it, whatever. And they said, so, which is totally fine. If you enjoy playing the game, we're here cheering for you. But
Yes.
we also, in this moment, we would like to extend the invitation for you to come up into the stands with us.
Yes.
And so they invited this group, everybody in the group, to come up into the stands. And they were literally like, come on, squish between us, just scooch in here. And now let's all just radiate that cheerleading light. And it was just magical. The whole thing, like, it was so exciting. And you could just feel the bliss of, not only stopping the effort, but cheerleading everybody else who's, just sharing that love for everybody who's still engaged in the game. Right?
Okay.
There's just all options available to us in this time. They can be
Yes.
anywhere from the game to the stands, right?
Yes. Yes. Well, that's where, honestly, I love that analogy because I felt that invitation, and I can tell you the date, it was March 21st, 2020, because before that, I was still thinking, what is this news media doing, putting people in this state of fear? And then finally, Spirit said to me that day, and I created a short music video, but what the Spirit said is, it's the beginning of the mask awakening. And I was like elated. So that I feel like Spirit was inviting me to come into the stands. You don't have to stay. You can, if you want to, stay down there and in the game. But if you come up in the stands and watch, and I'm like, I'm coming. I'm coming. Hold my seat.
My pom-poms.
Get my pom-poms ready, hold my seat. And that's where I've been. I've been in the stands since March. Before that, I was in the game. But I'm serious. People have told me, we have seen such a difference in you since March. And so I went up in the stands. I've been up in the stands. Yes, I have. And I'm watching the game. I see all that's going on, and I'm cheering everybody on. I'm cheering both sides. I'm cheering everybody on. Yes.
We need like a cheer for the Great Awakening. I wasn't a cheerleader, so I don't know how to cheer, but
I was
it out or dance to it or something.
I was a cheerleader in 8th grade for basketball, and then I was in 10th grade, I was flag squad, which was for football, twirling the flag. That was fun. But yes, that's I love that analogy because I feel I'm right there with them watching the game and just sending love to everybody on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it was exciting.
Yes.
It was really an exciting time. And that is not to minimize the suffering or the pain that people experience that are going through, more personal challenges in this time. And we're learning on lots of different levels in lots of different ways. So
yes.
It's just an extraordinary time for all in every way. It's an exciting time to be alive. And I have so many days, which is almost every day, where I just can't believe how magnificent the changes are, how quickly it's accelerating now.
Yes.
How many people are, coming along on the awakening journey. It's really spectacular.
It truly is. It truly is. And like you said, I'm just in bliss watching it. And like I said, sending love to both sides. And I know because the message I got this morning, it was just to stay the light, hold the light. Like you said, be that container, hold the light and send love and light. And through demonstration, they will like wait a second. She seems to be somewhere. I think I want to see what she's doing, just be the light so people can gravitate towards that light to help them raise. And again, they're going to have to, take that final step and go within. And because it's an inward journey to the awakening. But I agree with everything you said. It's I do use that language of 5D, 3D, but I also said I use that language with no judgment and truly no separation in but it does, the language is separation, but my feeling of it is not of separation.
Right.
Yeah. But and Paul says the upper room.
The upper room,
He
yes.
says the upper room.
See, we all have different ways of
Yes.
talking about it. And when you get to these points of hearing the language, then you can hear when you tune into some people that have been around for a while, you can hear when they're talking from fear. You can hear when fear comes into, and I consider that sort of an egoic bleed in, which is not dismissing an ego. An ego is a thing that's simply working very hard to protect us. But you can see where it bleeds into some teachings. Okay, I can see where you're at, and that's, for a certain level of people, they need to hear that at this point. That will feel safe for them. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good.
And the truth, it's totally no judgment. Like I say, well, I observed this, but I have no judgment on it. There's no judgment. It's just my observation from my viewpoint, which someone else might look at the same thing and have a totally different observation, and their observation is just as valid as my observation.
That's right. But I've taught a lot about what I call Judge Judy, which is, in a oneness experience, as we really are, there is perceiver and that which we perceive, and then that which is aware of that we're all perceiving or whatever. But in this separation consciousness between perceiver and that which we perceive, our mind inserted a filter that I call Judge Judy.
Okay.
It's the judgment about everything that we're perceiving. So we have a perception of it, and then we're seeing it through a filter of, well, what about it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it right? Or is it wrong? Is it preferable? Or, whatever. So we have this filter. And the moment that this is what separates us, right? We're in separation consciousness. So the minute that we take away the judgment about life, then all we're doing is in union with life.
Yes.
Right? It's the life experience. It's the being of life experience without any need for filters.
Yes. Exactly. So true. Please, Mary, share with our listeners all of the ways they can contact you, how they can come be a part of your group, all of it, everything. Share everything with our listeners, how they can keep up with you.
Okay, so the easiest way is to visit my website, unwittingmystic.com. And on there's two things that I recommend in particular. One is my course. I have two courses. One's the Divine Vibe, and one's the Divine 444 course. The Vibe is the follow-up to the first one. Okay. And they're excellent resources. And there's a lot of work that went into producing them. So it's a great deal for what it costs. I think is $149 or something like that. It's a 28-day course, and then the Divine Vibe is a 2-week course. So continue to support people through that. My book is unwittingmystic.com. That's the other resource. And then the Patreon community, I have a very tight-knit Patreon community that I've been working with for a little over a year, and it's starting to grow now. And that's you can find it at patreon.com/Mary Reed. And very, very simple. And we do satsangs every week and every other Wednesday. And everybody gets videos of those. So there's a lot of tools and meditations and things like that. And sometimes I share those publicly as well if there's something that I think the public would resonate with. Yeah, that's it. I also have a YouTube channel that you can find it on. Just type in Mystic Mary Reed and it'll pop up.
Awesome. Very good. This has been amazing. And
it's been a joy as always, Caroline.
I love it. I love being able to commune with fellow. And when I say it, and because somebody once, I was in a round table just the other day, and I said awake, like for me, and this has always been my definition of someone I would say seems unaware or asleep. I use the term asleep, but I look upon that being, know that they're divine being, and I look upon them with nothing but love. Like I would look upon a baby sleeping. And I use that analogy. I'm like, if you're looking at a baby sleeping, how can you feel nothing but love for that baby sleeping? So if someone's what is unaware, I think I'm going to start using that word unaware rather than asleep, because it seems like it has less judgment around it, because there is no judgment in my heart and soul. There is no judgment for those who are, and there's so many at this time awakening. That is just so joyous to see.
It's thrilling. Yes, 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 yes.
It is great. It is great.
Well, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you so
Yes.
much for inviting me to do this. I'm glad we could finally get
Yes,
together and do it.
yes, we kind of was hit and miss, but hey, all things happen in perfect divine timing.
Timing is perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's been a joy, my friend.
Always. Thank you so much. I love you so much. And you
I
know
love
what?
you too, Caroline.
Keep in touch. You
Yes.
know, we'll always be in touch.
May our time together be of benefit to all beings.
Yes.
Namaste, namaste.
Namaste, my sweetheart. Okay. Hi, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did with Mary Reed. Please go to her website and check out all the wonderful offerings she has there. I'd like to also invite you to my website. I am offering a free mentoring session for anyone interested in having a mentoring session with me. Just go to my website, awake2onenessradio.org, and email me and let me know you're interested in a mentoring session. Also, I am now hosting monthly Zoom gatherings at the end of each month. So the next meeting, because we had one yesterday, so the next meeting will be in Thursday, September 24th, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested in joining us in a monthly Zoom meeting, so just go to my website, contact me, and I will send you the link to that meeting. On my website, you also find a list of free online events, holistic online events, that there's at least 10 of them. Each week it updates, but they're holistic events that will help us to stay healthy in these times. We're all concerned about our health. And my way of staying healthy is holistically, and I like to share that with my listeners. So check that out on my website. Also, everything I do, Awake to Oneness Radio, is nonprofit. So I have a donation button and I accept donations. If you care to pledge $1 to $5 a month to help support the work of Awake to Oneness Radio, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye for now. Namaste.